Hello friends, and welcome back to another motion picture. My name is Monique Renee, and today I am drawing my plants as cute characters. This is Esmeralda. She's a beautiful kumquat tree, and I love her with all of my heart. I love to garden, I love to grow plants, I love to surround myself with plants, so I figured this would be a fun series for me to just kind of kick back, open up my sketchbook, flex my character design skills, and also spend some time with my beautiful plant babies. I am a millennial. That means I have no children, I only have pets, and I only have plants. This video is sponsored by Ohuhu, so thank you Ohuhu for sponsoring the channel, but more on that later. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is pick a color scheme. I usually don't do this first, but the colors in Esmeralda are very important, so I think I'll just start with a few that I know I want to use and kind of go from there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swatch all the colors that I've got. So I've got them easily accessible. And now we start to sketch. Alright, so you've got a very basic body to kind of go off of, and we can start building her from here. I wanted to give her some kind of pose. I didn't want to just draw her standing there, so she's kind of holding on to something. I'm not sure what. Maybe a skirt? Maybe let's start with that. Maybe she's tying it up, so maybe she's got like shorts underneath so she's not flashing everybody. The way her branches work, they kind of bunch up, so she'll have like a bunch of these go over here, and then the branch, and then there'll be like another bunch kind of over here, and then in the middle somewhere will be like a kumquat. So maybe we can have this kind of bunching up to kind of mimic that bunched up leaf thing going on. Yeah, no. She is more of like a tropical plant, so I would like to incorporate that into her design, but that skirt fell just a little bit too on the nose. Ooh, and maybe she could have like a shawl that has tassels on it. One of those kimono shawls. Ooh. Oh, I like that. Maybe they could have like the bunch of tassels. Actually, I don't like the tassel idea. I think that's what's throwing me off. Oh, but her kimono can have like the design of the leaves on it. Ooh, there we go. Okay, I like that a lot. I'm thinking for hair, maybe of giving her space buns, because they look like kumquats. Little pieces of hair sticking out. Maybe just like a top knot. Oh, you know what? I think I actually like that. Maybe just kind of like a widow's peak. And the rest of the hair is like tied up. I like that. All right, we'll go with that for now. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just darken some spots that I know I want to keep. I'm keeping this super loose because it's just like our first little sketch and something for us to go off of. So I don't want to put too much time into it, but I do want to give us a good jumping off point. I love drawing loose, flowy fabric, so this kimono is definitely self-indulgent, but that's okay. Sometimes we just gotta draw what's fun, you know? I haven't had a whole lot of time to do personal art lately, so yeah, I'm gonna take this opportunity to be a little self-indulgent. So I think we obviously need her hair to be orange. That's kind of a given. And then I want her to have these bunches of green leaves on her kimono. And I'm thinking I want her skin to be a bit on the olive side, Ooh, this may be too peachy and vibrant. Not sure if that's what I want. Not sure how I feel about the brown lips either. Ugh. I really don't use a lot of greens in my art, so this is kind of out of my comfort zone, but it's what I wanted, was to flex my character design muscles. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, let's try to draw her face now. See if we can get a better idea of what that will look like. I kind of like these droopy eyes that I gave her in the first sketch. I did that kind of accidentally, but I think it looks cute. Then maybe her face can be kind of on the narrower side. So it kind of like comes like that. Yeah, her hair can be like pretty loose, actually, I think. Kind of like she's just been at the beach all day. And then she just tied her hair up in like a top knot. Maybe she can have some like flyaways. Oh yeah, I think it looks really cute actually. Okay, I think I'm going to go a little bit darker with her skin. Yeah, I think I already like this a lot better. More of like an olive brown type skin color than the really bright peachy. Peach just was not doing it for me. Okay, so what I've done here is I've sketched out a few concepts of what I want the final illustration to be, which I will create on this page. So basically I just want to draw her not just standing there, but with some kind of movement. So basically I'm going to have her reaching up for a kumquat, and yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think it'll do a good job of showing off her kimono, which kind of I wanted to make a focal point. Before I get started on the final illustration, I want to talk to you guys about the sponsor of this video, which is Ohuhu. You have probably heard of Ohuhu if you watch a lot of YouTube. They sponsor a bunch of videos and they're a huge supporter of the art YouTube community. I am using the Ohuhu brush markers in this video. I'm really enjoying these markers. It's the first time I'm using them and I'm super pleased with them. Ohuhu was kind enough to give me this 120 pack of markers. It came with a nice carrying case. It came with a little color swatch key, and it also came with a sheet so you can put in between sketchbooks so that the colors don't bleed through. I thought this was a really nice touch. I haven't seen this in any other pack of markers before, and it's gonna be a lifesaver because I always bleed through to the other side. And right now, Ohuhu is having a special promotion. If you do want the 120 pack of markers, you can do so and get a free sketchbook with your order. This is a really delightful marker pad. The paper is great. The paper is actually perforated too, which is really lovely because you can take out the pages that you want and scan them, or you can keep them in the sketchbook for you to keep as a regular sketchbook. This size is great. I love working on a square sketchbook, but if you do not, they also have this guy as well if you want more of a traditional kind of sketchbook. Like I said, these markers are great. As you can see, the color is super beautiful. They blend like a dream. I am so happy with these, so thank you again, Ohuhu, for sponsoring this video. I will have all of their information in the description box below. Make sure to go check them out, and let's move on to the final illustration. Here's the part of the video where I stopped talking completely because I just got completely lost in the creating of this illustration, so I will finish off this video with the voiceover. I will walk you through the steps that I took with the creating of the final piece, and I started off with taking a brown color pencil to outline the character. I don't like using fine liners when I'm doing color work. It's the same with my watercolor pieces. I think using a brown color pencil just makes everything look overall more soft. To create the leaves, I started off with a yellow marker, and then I added a green marker, and then I blended it all again with the yellow marker. These Ohuhu markers blend so nicely, so what I ended up with was a really nice gradient that started off green and ended at yellow with the tips. This adds a lot more depth to the piece rather than making the leaves just one solid color. I wanted a little bit of variation in there. From there, I just created more layers of leaves to kind of tuck in beneath the first layer I created, and I did this by making the main color of the leaf darker than the main color of the leaf above it. And then I would also add a shadow color at the base and that same yellow color at the tip to create more of that variation I was talking about. So it was just a process of creating layer after layer of leaf, and this took quite a while, but I think it was really, really worth it. With the kumquats, it was more of the same process. I would start with a light mid-tone color, and then I would gradually add shadows where I wanted the shadows, and then if I needed to blend out a certain area, like if there was just a bit too dark of a color and it wasn't blending quite right, I would go again with that same first initial color and just run it all over across the kumquat, and the ink would help to just blend with the darker inks, and it just created really, really beautiful gradients. I also love the way the orange color pops out against the green. I think it is just so striking and so pretty, and just, I love the colors I chose for this piece. A lot of it also has to deal with the fact that Esmeralda is a really beautiful tree, and her fruits are just gorgeous against her branches, so that is actually all props to Esmeralda. For the background, I knew I wanted a ton of contrast, and I knew that the leaves were really bright and her kimono was going to be really bright, and also her hair was going to be really bright, so I figured a really dark, neutral background was going to be best. So I chose a really, really dark brown, and I just covered the whole thing in a flat color of that brown, and I did go over a few areas more than once to make sure that the color was nice and flat and smooth, and I'm so glad that I did that. I think the background is really striking, and yeah, good on me for that one. That was me. That was less Esmeralda and more me, so good job me. With the skin, I actually did end up using that peach color that I used at the very beginning. However, I only used it to create a really thin layer of the color, and then I used that brown olive color as the main skin color. The reason why I started with a small layer of the peach color is because I wanted that to be my highlight color. And with markers, for the most part, you need to start with the lightest color that you're using. At least that's how I use markers. So I wanted that peach color to be the highlight color. I started with that color and then gradually added the more olive color, and that became overall the main skin color. I try to do this process a little bit quickly because when the ink is still wet, that's going to mean that it's easier for the colors to blend. And if it's easier for the colors to blend, you're going to get a much smoother transition between colors. With something like the skin, it's very important for me that the colors are really smooth and the transitions are really soft, because that's going to make the face look really soft. Of course, in some cases, you are going to want more of a harsh line between colors, and that's going to be places where the shadow is going to be much harsher. For example, places like underneath the chin, some places on the nose, etc. This is just going to make the overall piece look a bit more contrasted, a bit more dynamic, make it look a bit more natural, because if everything is the same smoothness, then it's going to look a little unnatural. When I really wanted something to be in shadow, I would actually go in with a desaturated light purple color, and this would push the olive color back to where it looked more desaturated and it looked a bit more in shadow. And I like doing this because I find if I use like a darker brown, the whole thing just looks a bit too flat, but when you add another color like a purple or a blue, it makes the skin just look more alive, in my opinion. Hair is one of my most favorite things to draw, and this case was no different. How I did this was I started off with, again, a really, really light color. This time, it was another peach color that was really close to the skin, and I was actually a little worried that the skin was going to blend into the hair too much. So what I did was, instead of using that olive color, when I wanted to add contrast, I used a much darker brown. I would do this in places, for example, where the roots would be, or just to differentiate strands of hair from different strands of hair. And then I would go in with that peach color again and really lay it on thick and really blend that brown into that peach. Because I used such a darker brown, this ended up creating a really nice mid-tone between the brown and the peach, and I'm really happy because it ended up looking like a different color than the skin, and that was kind of my goal at that point. I also went in with that same purple color to create shadows in the hair, and I like using the same color because it creates a sense of cohesion throughout the piece. I used the same color for the shadows in the skin, the hair, and the clothing, so it makes all of the shadows look not quite the same, but it does tie the whole thing together. The shadows also don't look too similar because the underlying color that I used for each piece is different. So the skin is that olive, the hair is the orange, the clothing is green. So because I have those colors mixed in with the purple, it doesn't make it look too similar, but it does have that sense of cohesion to it. The hair is one of those places where you can get away with the colors not looking quite as smooth. You can do a lot less blending and have a lot of those strands just kind of stick out on their own. This is also going to help differentiate the hair from the skin because the skin is blended really, really smoothly, and by contrast the hair isn't, so that makes the texture look different. So you can tell where the skin is skin because it's really smooth, and you can tell where the hair is hair because there's more contrast, there's different colors, it looks harsher, and it looks like a different texture. I used that green color that I used in the initial sketch for the kimono because I really, really loved how that looked. So what I did was I just covered the whole thing in a few layers of that green to make sure that the color was nice and smooth. Once I did that, I went in with a darker green color, one of the ones that I used for the leaves at the beginning, and I did a different pattern than the initial sketch. I wanted something that was a bit more graphic and something that would stand out against the leaves already in this illustration. So I did a leaf outline and I made sure to keep it really simple, and then I added a graphic line down the middle and a few lines to represent like the little veins. And then once I did that, it still looked a little not right. So I went in again with the initial light green color and I just kind of rubbed it all over those leaves. And what it did was it blurred out a lot of those edges and it just made it look more, what's the word? Blurred. I really liked the branches that I drew in the original sketch, so I made sure to include those as well. Now it's time to add the finishing touches. We're almost done with this illustration. The last step to any illustration that I do is I go in again with my colored pencils. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to define some more areas. For example, the eyes, they got a little bit blurry when I added the colors, so I'm going to define them. I'm going to give her eyelashes, and I also do this to add depth to areas where I couldn't quite get depth before. Once I have done all that, I go in with my trusty white gel pen and I add just a little bit of highlights. I like to do this to like the eyes and some places in the hair, and this just makes everything pop just a little bit more. And with that, this illustration is done. Oh my gosh, I am so surprised with how much I love this final illustration. I love the colors, I love how the character looks. I'm just so jazzed about this. So thank you guys for hanging out with me and watching me as I go through the process of planning this to the final piece. Also, please go check out Ohuhu. Make sure you check them out if you would like to get some markers for your own. Make sure you take advantage of this deal where you can buy the 120 pack of markers and get a free sketchbook. I love both of these products, so I highly recommend them. Thank you again, Ohuhu, for sponsoring the channel. That's going to be all for me today, so until next time, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!